Hi, I'm Jen from Acadian Accounting Education, and today we are going to practice correcting issues in the bank feed, specifically undeposited funds. So if you would like to grab a copy of the exercise, be sure to click on the link in the description, and let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and correct that issue. Now, this exercise is coming from our Level 1 ProAdvisor certification course, which if you would like more information about that course after we go through the exercise, be sure to click on the link in the description. But let's dive in and read through today's scenario. While processing the bank feed, you come across a deposit transaction with no match. You typically record bank deposits in QBO right away, so it is odd that this one has no match. Take a look below to see how to problem solve through this issue. Now, you'll need to be in the sample company to do this exercise. If you are not sure how to get into the sample company or get your own free QBOA account, be sure to click on the link in the description. I have the sample company here on the left side of my screen. This is where we're going to work. So once you sign in, this is what it will look like. So let's go ahead and get started with the exercise. Now, in order to recreate the issue, you need to complete several setup steps first. So we're going to get to the banking center. To do that, on the left navigation bar, we're just going to click on Bank Transactions. Now, the left navigation bar is this black bar here. You will see at the top underneath bookmarks is bank transactions. Go ahead and click on that. Alternatively, you could have hovered over transactions and then selected bank transactions from that drop down menu. Both places would take you to the exact same place. Now, if this is your first time in this area, you will receive this pop up here. It's just information about this area provided by QBO. So go ahead and just click on the X to exit out of it as we do not need it. Now we want to locate the deposit transaction for $408. So if I scroll, we're going to look in the received column here. I'm looking for the deposit, which is here for $408. Go ahead and click anywhere on that line there to expand it. Now you'll want to take note of the transaction date and the amount. So it is $408, and then you will notice the date right next to it. Now, in the sample company, it is always the dates are always changing, and so your date may be different than what you see here on my screen. So whatever the date is here on this screen on your screen, be sure to make note of it as you will need that for later in the exercise. Let's go ahead and see more of this deposit by clicking on deposit. So that is this right here. And then remember, we are creating the problem, or recreating the problem. So we want to uncheck the John Melton payment. So that is this one right here. Go ahead and do that. And then click on Save and Close by clicking on the green arrow here on the bottom right corner and then Save and Close. All right, and that has been saved. And now you can change the John Melton payment that we just deselected. So let's go ahead and get to his customer profile. From the left navigation bar, we're going to hover over sales and then select customers. So the left navigation bar, once again, here is sales and then select customers. We want to look for John's name. So once it comes up, you can start scrolling down. He is about halfway down on that list. Go ahead and click on his name to pull up his profile. You'll see his information here and transactions down here. Now, if this is your first time in a customer profile, you may get some of these pop-ups here. Just go ahead and click out of them as we don't need them for this exercise. I am also going to collapse this bar right here by clicking on these three lines and this arrow, just because it helps expand my screen a little bit more. Feel free to do the same if you would like to. All right, so on the payment line, which is the top line here, we want to click on View Edit to make the change in it. So go ahead and do that. And we are changing the deposit to field to checking. Currently, it is showing as undeposited funds. Now, as an aside here, undeposited funds is a temporary holding account for funds when checks, physical checks, or cash have been received and they have not made their way to the bank yet. Undeposited funds is that holding account here in QBO that you will put the funds in to show that the payment has been received. And then once it physically makes its way into the bank, then you use a deposit transaction like we just saw to record that it has been deposited. But if you do not have this deposit to going to undeposited funds, you won't see that as an option in the deposit or the bank deposit transaction when you are creating it. And you'll see that in a moment how this changes things. So let's go ahead and click on that down arrow and select checking here. And then we are going to click on the green save and close button. Now you're going to be asked if you want to save the transaction and say yes. And now that has been saved. All right, so now that we have recreated the problem, let's go ahead and solve it. So back to that scenario, you saw the deposit transaction in the bank feed for $408, and you typically record those deposits as soon as they come in. So it's odd that it didn't match. So your workflow is to process the bank feed weekly. So if you recorded the deposit, it would have been done sometime during that week. So let's go ahead and take a look for it. We're going to click on the search icon, which is this magnifying glass here at the top. Go ahead and click on that. And then you want to click on either go to transaction search or it will say advanced transactions search. Sometimes the wording changes here in the sample company. So just go ahead and click the link there at the bottom and you will get this information here. Now we want to, because you process the bank feeds every single week, we want to look within a 1 week period. So, based on the date of the deposit that you saw on your screen for that was in the bank feed, you want to select about a 1 week window that includes that deposit date. So, if you go to filters here and then you scroll down, there is a date field here. We want to click on the calendar icon. For me, the date was February 20th. So I'm going to select the a couple of days before, and then I'm going to select a couple of days after. Oops, not a whole month. So as long as your date that you saw on the screen is sometime between that 1 week period, go ahead. It doesn't necessarily matter which days, just make sure that it's between that 1 week period. Then let's go ahead and click on the green apply button. All right, so you are trying to figure out if you recorded a bank deposit. So let's further filter this down. In the transaction type field, we want to select deposit. So click the down arrow, scroll down a little bit, and then select deposit. Now you should see a couple of deposits here. It may be 3, it may be 4, depending on how you did your week, how you set it up, how many days before and how many days after. So regardless of how many you see, you will see that there is a deposit on the date that matches the one on the bank feed. So again, for me, it was the 20th of February, and it happens to be this one. You will see Amy's Bird Sanctuary here in that contact field here. So that's how you know which one it is. Plus, it's for $108. So let's go ahead and click on this line here to see the deposit transaction. Now, as I mentioned, you can see that the deposit recorded is only for $108. So the deposit is off by $300. But there were no transactions listed that add up to $300. If you look here, remember I said that if you don't have that transaction, that payment transaction, if it is not linking to the deposit to going into undeposited funds, it's not going to show up here as an option, which is what is happening right here. So we need to see if any other payments were received in that same time frame. Again, we recreated the problem and now this is the workflow to solve that problem. So let's go ahead and click out of this. We're going to keep the date range field as is, and then in the transaction type field, we want to change it to payments. So click the down arrow once again, scroll down, and then find payment. Now, here you can see a list of all payments received in the date range that you're looking at. There is one payment whose date matches the Amy's Bird Sanctuary payment that was included in the deposit, and it is for $300. So let's take a look at that one. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see about halfway here is $300, and it happens to be the one for John Melton. So go ahead and click anywhere on that line to open up the payment transaction. Now, as soon as you do, you can clearly see what went wrong here. When you recorded the payment, you selected checking instead of undeposited funds. So this is an easy fix. All you need to do is click on the down arrow and then select undeposited funds. And then we want to go ahead and click on Save and Close. It's the green button on the bottom. Once again, it's going to ask if you want to save the transaction. Go ahead and click on Yes. All right, so now let's return to that deposit transaction so that we can fix that one. So in that transaction type field, once again, we're going to select deposit so we can get back to that listing. So scroll back up, click on deposit, and then we want to click anywhere on that $108 deposit line. So go ahead and do that. And now you can see that John Melton's payment is an option in the deposit. Remember, we changed that deposit to field to undeposited funds. So now we have that here as an option. We're going to go ahead and click on the checkbox next to him. The amount has changed to $408. And then we want to just click on Save and Close on the bottom right corner. And now that deposit has been saved. And now we can return to the bank feed and match the transaction. So on the left navigation bar, once again, we're going to click on Bank Transactions. So go ahead and do that. And then we're going to scroll down to that $408 transaction. You can open it up. You can see this deposit transaction is for $408. It is matching what's here in the bank feed. So we can go ahead and click on the green match button. So go ahead and do that. And there you go. That's how you would correct an issue with undeposited funds. Now, if you like this exercise and you would like to do more like it, or you would like more information about that Level 1 ProAdvisor certification course, be sure to click on the link in the description, and I will see you next time.